Correct. I mean, we aren't looking at the heat shield. Obviously, that's still covered by the service module. So this is just your thermal protection system. My understanding is we would modify our flight profile to try and accommodate that, but I don't know. There's nothing we can do hardware-wise. There's no way to go repair, for example.
I would add that depending on the nature of the damage, if that were even something that we would have to consider, you can assess the various flight profiles, the ballistic landing profile, the loads managed, and you could try to pick one that was the least stressing if there were something of concern. But as Debbie said, we did the survey and there's nothing to be concerned about for entry.
Marcia.
Marcia Dunn, Associated Press. For you, Rick, what's the maximum speed coming back? Isn't it going to set a record? I think you promised us that.
Yes, we did. And
yes, and when and how will the capsule be coming back to Florida?
So as far as the speed, our prediction for Artemis II, we're going to reach a max velocity of 34,965 feet per second. And that is less than the Apollo 10 record of 36,397.
And the answer on how it comes back to Florida, we'll be trucking it back. So it'll get some conditioning done as soon as it gets back to San Diego. Some quick inspections and other things we do there, but immediately, as quickly as we can, put it on a truck and it gets driven back to Florida, back to the facility where we'll start doing the deservicing there. It's closer to two weeks. Mm-hmm.
Mark.
Mark Carroy with Aviation Week. The external imagery that you showed, was that what was taken yesterday morning?
Yeah, that was our inbound inspection. So yes, that was the most recent pictures.
Okay, go ahead.
Mark Kirkman with NSF. Just want to drill down primarily with Rick, I guess, on the crew's experience for entry. Are they going to be heads down at entry interface? Is there any pre-bank? And also, if you can elaborate on the G spikes, the way I understand it is they do that first pull out, there should be a spike, and then there's another one as you come back down on the second side of that. And then just one other add-on to that is, are there any DTOs, any manual control inputs, any PTIs or anything like that that are going to be done in this time frame?
So you're correct that the crew members are going to be heads down. That provides them a view of the horizon as they enter. If we were in a different attitude, you wouldn't have that horizon as a reference. Yeah, there are two different spikes in the G loads, but again, the max is 3.9, so you get about two similar 3.9 Gs on entry as you do the various roll reversals. Pre-bank, we do have, we'll roll in to capture the atmosphere right at entry interface, but we're predicting 5 of those roll reversals on the way down.
Jonathan.
Jonathan Seri with Fox News. Follow up to that. We're talking about the Gs that the Artemis crew will experience. How does that compare to crews coming back from LEO, say in a Crew Dragon, in terms of Gs and also duration of reentry?
It's a really good question. I would hate to speculate on the numbers, and so maybe we could follow up with you afterwards and give you accurate numbers as opposed to me speculating.
Okay, we'll take a couple questions from the phone. The first is from Lauren Grush with Bloomberg.
Hi, thank you so much for taking my question. I'm wondering if you can just walk us through the weather constraints for the landing location, if those do exist. And just to clarify, I guess I'm wondering, what are the variables that you can change with this splashdown if there is some kind of technical issue discovered ahead of the reentry, and what can't you change? Thanks so much.
Sure. So for the weather constraints for splashdown, we're primarily looking at the wind conditions. We're looking at some of the wave conditions. We're looking at precipitation and thunderstorms. And as of now, our forecast for our landing site is winds out of the southwest, 10 knots, waves less than 4 feet with a wave period of 17 seconds. We're watching that cold front that I had mentioned over the past couple days. It's slowed down. It's also weakened in nature. And so the precipitation that we were watching is forecasted to be greater than 60 miles from the intended splashdown location. So We have some really favorable conditions. Should be a real nice day during the day in San Diego. That cold front will push through after splashdown, but it's looking like we'll have some favorable conditions for a nice landing on Friday. And there was
Next.
another question, I think. Is there another? Maybe not. Okay.
About
Okay.
what variables you can affect.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So as far as the variables that affect the landing down modes, we call them down modes. If you have a contingency, we're really looking at things that affect the guidance, navigation, and control, and the propulsion systems. So we want to ensure that the spacecraft can still fly safely home. So we have some ways to alter the landing, which shortens our entry profile. We land further uprange, but they are certified spacecraft guidance, navigation, and control modes that will ensure a safe landing in multiple failure condition contingencies.
Okay, next we'll stay with the phone. We have Ken Chang with the New York Times.
What do you lose by not doing a skip reentry? Does that reduce the flexibility of where you can land?
From an operational perspective, it's that reduced range within which we can assess the weather conditions. But I don't know if Debbie has anything from a heat shield performance perspective to add.
Well, I think we did a lot of investigation after Artemis I. We did do the full skip there, so we understand how the rest of the vehicle behaves, and done an extensive ground test program to understand how this heat shield behaves, and then so we can expand that to a larger skip, a real skip entry, starting with Artemis III again. So this is just one piece of our test flight program to get the full capability. I wouldn't say we're losing anything by going with the lofted entry on this flight. We knew that going into it, and we've built in the ground test program to get us the full skip entry for the future.
We'll do one more question on the phone, then come back to the room. The next question is from Nell Greenfield-Boyce with NPR.
Thank you. I'm asking a little bit more about the reentry inspection. So it seems like the heat shield's really kind of covered up. So I'm wondering like what you all are really looking for in the inspection. You said everything looked fine, but I'm wondering, what wouldn't be fine. And I'm also wondering, like, do we have any data on the heat shield that can't be seen? I don't know what it would be. I'm assuming not, but I'm just asking what, if anything's known about what's going on in the parts that are covered. Thanks.
Yeah, so the inspection we did was primarily for the back shells. And so that's I think it's about 1,300 different back shell tiles that are covered with that Ciox tape in most cases. So we're just looking to see if we see any notable damage that might give us a concern, that might want us to change how we do our reentry profile. The tiles themselves are very robust and they have huge levels of margin. So we can accommodate some MMOD damage without compromising the vehicle. So we're just looking to evaluate, do we see anything that would be beyond what we think we can accommodate? And we really didn't see anything at all. So that's what we're looking at. In terms of the heat shield, no, we're not getting data off of that at this time. That's been covered with the service module. And so we will not be getting any data off of that until we hit that separation phase.
Bill Harwood with CBS. A question for Lily. Is Lily still on the line?
Yes.
Can you go over the crew extraction sequence? In other words, which astronaut comes off first? Do you alternate one on one chopper, one on the other, and then rotate back? Who's first off, who's last off, and how they sequence the choppers? Thanks.
Yes, I can definitely answer that. The nominal plan is to open the hatch and the first medic will go in and assess the crew right away. And then he will be helping the first crew member in seat 3, which is actually Jeremy. And then the second medic will enter and he will go to Reed. And then we'll have the 2 follow-on medics along with the medical officer. The Navy medical officer will go in and take care of Victor and Christina. Once they assess that everything's well, the plan is to egress Christina first, then Victor, then Jeremy, and then Reed. Of course, if there are any situations medically where there's some concern, the medical officer has the right to egress the person who is impaired first if needed. And that's pretty much the sequence that we will also pick up via helicopter.
We'll go with Will.
Thank you. Will Robinson Smith with Spaceflight Now. Thank you all for taking the time. Question to Rick. You mentioned the remaining manual piloting events that are still left. Can you talk about which crew members are going to be doing what? And then just a quick one to Lakeisha. We've heard the crew during each of the crew planning briefings talk about the lights on the Avatar experiment. Some are on, some are off. Can you explain what a light being off actually means? Thanks.
As far as the manual piloting demonstration this afternoon, all 4 crew members are scheduled for that event. And from what I recall pre-flight, Reed really wanted to ensure that this spacecraft could be flown by pilots and non-pilots. And so I would expect everyone to have an opportunity to have a chance to fly the spacecraft so that we can understand the handling capabilities of Orion, both from a pilot's perspective as well as from a non-pilot, because by demonstrating that Orion is capable of being flown by pilots and non-pilots, you open the door for a wider range of future astronaut selections and flight crew assignments, because you no longer have to be beholden to there being a test pilot in the commander and pilot seats. You can really allow anyone in the astronaut corps to help fly that spacecraft.
Yeah, to your question about Avatar, we will get you someone to get you a specific answer about the lights on, lights off, but that's an autonomously run system. It's still got good power to it, and it is still functioning. It reported back that it's still functioning as it should. Right, so we'll be looking forward to getting that off of the ship to get the data from it at the end of the mission. Thanks.
Hello, my name is Ed Lavendera with CNN. Thank you for taking the time today. Can you talk about, and this might be a question for Lillian Reed, how many aircraft, drones, kind of getting eyes on the capsule as it's coming back in for re-entry? And is that number kind of standard, or is it more because this is the first time there's been a crew on this particular capsule re-entering?
Lily, do you want to take that one? I think you would probably be better suited to answer it.
I think it's good. Thank you. And Debbie can confirm that there's going to be at least 7 different aircraft, sci-fi aircraft at different altitudes imaging the vehicle. And Debbie, correct me if I got that wrong.
Yeah, that's correct. And it's a lot more than we had on Artemis I. We've added quite a few more air assets to capture more imagery as the vehicle's coming down.
Correct. So besides those sci-fi planes, we will be using 2 of the Navy military helicopters, MH-60s, with our own gimbals. They're going to be at different altitudes who will be much closer to the splashdown, taking imaging of the splashdown all the way until splashdown. If for some reason we have clouds, we also have additional gimbals on the bow of the ship to be able to capture that landing right when it happens right in front of the ship for us.
Go ahead.
Hi, Andrea Leinfelder of the Houston Chronicle. I was hoping to talk a little more about this being a test flight. We've talked a lot about the toilet, but can you give us a little more information on the water valve and the service module issues that you hope to learn from?
Sure. I think early in the mission, we talked about a water valve in the water on-off valve in the potable water system that we saw had inadvertently closed. And so because that's in the service module, we will not be getting the service module back. And so we have designed a bit of a test to do. I think it's happening later today. The timeline's moving around a bit, but to kind of do some additional opening and closing of different valves in that system to learn more about those behaviors. Always taking into account, we never will put us at risk of not having water available. So we're actually doing this, now that I think about it, it's later in the mission to make sure that we have all the water we need and we're done with any access to that system that's required. So that's one of the things we're doing just to learn about the valves in that system, since we won't be getting the service module back.
Irene Klotz with Aviation Week for Debbie. Can you discuss a little bit the applicability of the data that's going to be collected about the heat shield wear on Artemis II for the heat shields that are being changed for Artemis, actually 4 in particular, and also for 3 since it's not going to be coming back from a lunar orbit? Just what value is that information now? Thanks.
Yeah, I'm not sure prepared to talk to you about Artemis 3 today, but the value of the data off Artemis 2, we are flying a different profile, but we have what we expect to see on that heat shield based on that profile and based on our ground testing. So a lot of this data we get is to validate the models and the testing we saw on the ground to make sure we're able to recreate behavior in testing on the ground, and then we can use the recreations on the ground to actually test what we want to do in the future. So we are building what we call the permeable heat shield for Artemis 3 that is designed for lunar returns. We've been talking about Artemis 3 now being maybe a LEO or a HEO mission. Again, we get data back regardless, and so we can look at the heating on that heat shield from return, correlate it to our models, correlate it to our ground testing, and so it's not you have to have those lunar returns. We can use that data to help prove out that design as we move forward.
Okay, we'll go there and then to the gentleman in front of you.
Hi, Dr. Allison McGraw from Mysterious Meteorites. This is perhaps a question for Debbie. How is the risk assessment for micrometeoroids or orbital debris completed?
There's a very defined tool we use called PRA, probabilistic risk assessment, where we actually look at all of the things that create risk for the mission, and MMOD is one of those items. And so we have, MMOD predictions for the environments that we're flying in, the orbits we're flying in, and those feed into that tool, and that's how we determine where that risk falls in that regime. We designed the spacecraft to try and be tolerant to MMOD strikes by putting like I said, a lot of margin into our TPS materials and flying in certain ways to keep the MMOD away from where we don't want it to be. So not a lot we can do with what's out there, but we try and characterize it and analyze to it so we understand what we're accepting.
Okay, we can go to you and then we'll take another question from the phone.
Hi, Michael Adkisson, Houston Public Media. I have a question for Rick. I want to ask how reentry for this mission looks different than it did for Artemis 1 and also recent missions over the last, couple of decades, how this is specifically different. And then if I could also get a quick confirmation to tonight's press conference, I tried to figure out if this is the first press conference from deep space before, or at least, out of Earth orbit, and couldn't figure that out 100%. So if anyone has that confirmation.
On that one, we'll have to go back and look what they did during Apollo. So we'll get back to you.
As far as the changes on entry between Artemis 1 and Artemis 2, the most significant difference is the range from entry interface to splashdown. We've talked a number of times about how we've shortened the entry range. We're down around 2,000 miles for this mission, and that's a function of the certification of the heat shield.
And we did just actually get a quick follow-up that there were in-flight opportunities with the crew during Apollo. Okay, we'll go to the phone. We'll get a question from Micah Maidenberg with the Wall Street Journal.
Hi, thanks, Rachel. Just a couple of things for Rick. Rick, how long does the period of max velocity that you mentioned last? And can you talk about sort of the expectations for crew during reentry? Are they expected to be silent, make verbal observations about what's going on? Thanks.
Yeah, the period of max velocity shouldn't last long. We're continuing to speed up as we speak. We're getting closer and closer to Earth, and our velocity is increasing, and it'll peak out right around entry interface. As for what's going on in the cockpit, it'll be very similar to when you're on board a aircraft flying commercial. The pilots are nothing but professional because they're focused on the task at hand. And so I expect the cockpit to be silent as Reed and Victor monitor the spacecraft performance. If all goes nominal, they will not need to take any actions, but they have been trained working with my team of flight controllers to respond in the event that we are faced with an off-nominal scenario.
Our next question is from Joseph Howlett with Scientific American.
Hi. From the mission thus far, I'm curious if there's any lessons you've learned that have informed the plan for reentry. Are there any new risks or contingencies that you're thinking about? based on what you've learned so far aboard?
As far as what we've learned throughout the mission that has changed how we've done entry, we really have had a really well-functioning spacecraft. My team is going to take the console tomorrow, and we're going to have a briefing with the flight crew in preparation for entry. And really, we don't have any major things. Debbie's got the water valve testing that they talked about, but again, we're going to jettison the service module. The crew module propulsion system is nominal. We're going to activate that tomorrow and see how it's functioning. And so we're planning a nominal entry with procedures just as we had developed them pre-flight.
Joey.
Thanks, Joey Roulette with Reuters. What's the temperature going to be inside the cabin at peak heating or peak velocity? And for any of the little tiny problems that have popped up during this mission, like the toilet and that weird smell that the crew was experiencing, is there anything you have to do with those before re-entry, or is there any problems they might pose during re-entry? Thanks.
I would say from a hardware standpoint, nothing we're doing on those relative to reentry. We have not had any reports of that smell again, and so we'll look more into that in the crew module when it gets back. Things like the wastewater venting, we have some new work planned on the dock at the Naval Base San Diego to try and get some early data off of that system. So we're modifying some things on the ground as soon as it gets here to get some data back very quickly, but nothing that we're changing in the mission profile relative to those items.
And recall on entry, the crew will be suited with their visors down in a pressurized suit so that they're going to get cool air. And so regardless of the cabin temperature, they'll remain cool and comfortable in their suits.
Jackie Goller for the Times of London. I wondered if Lily could just tell us, are there any other recovery or rescue assets in the area? The expectation that the capsule is just going to plop right in front of the vessel. I was just wondering if there's other stuff in the area in case it doesn't. And also, could anybody just talk us through how you, what's going to happen with the astronauts after they come back here? Has there been conversation about what their wishes are in terms of public appearance and so on? Thank you.
Okay, this is Lily. I'll answer the first one. Yes, we still are working with the military to ensure that if there is an off-nominal event, that we have rescue forces ready to go to the site of the off-nominal landing. And so we have C-17s with PJs that are stationed at Joint Base Charleston, ready to deploy if needed. And then we have a C-17 with PJs and also all of the hardware that's needed to rescue the crew at Joint Base Pearl Harbor, ready to go at entry. So we're pretty much covered if there is an off-nominal event and they do not land where the ship is. Now, if they land, a short distance from the ship, obviously we will start heading towards the splashdown site. And I'll let somebody else take the second question.
Yes, we do hope to have an opportunity to hear directly from the crew once they return to Earth several days after their return. Okay, let's come down to the front row here.
Zachary Albert with the Launchpad. Can you take us through the timeline of getting the experience and science out of Orion? I know coming home from the ISS, there's some that we rapidly get back off the vessel. Is there any plans with that with Orion, or is it going to more just ship back with it when it comes back to Florida?
It's a combination. There's early destow bags that come out right away. They get shipped back on aircraft. Some of the data storage that's got some of the imagery and other technical data will actually be downloading those cards onto computers, making copies there in San Diego. So it's a combination depending on the criticality, and then the vehicle itself comes back, with the rest of the equipment.
TJ
Muscaro with the Epoch Times. Thanks so much. For Lakeisha, sorry if I missed it earlier. I know we were talking about radiation data. Have you all been able to gather, or have any of that radiation data downlinked yet? And have you guys been able to take a look at it? Or is that all going to be after?
So I think I was referring to the Avatar data, and that data will obviously be brought off of the ship once it's returned.
Okay, we'll take one from the phone. This from Manuel Mazzanetti with Exploración Espacial.
Thank you so much. Manuel Mazzanetti with Exploración Espacial. A question maybe for Rick. This is not regarding entry, but the simulation that the crew performed with the oxygens. I would like to know if they provided some feedback after this exercise. I understand that they were doing in different speeds, how they felt about it, and if you received some feedback from this test. Thank you.
Manuel, we're not hearing you quite clearly. Can you try again, please?
Yes, I apologize. Manuel Mazzanetti with Exploración Espacial. I was asking Rick if he can provide, if the astronauts gave some feedback regarding the test with the oxygens on board the capsule a few days ago. They were doing at different speeds, and I wonder if the crew provided some feedback of improving the process or if they felt okay with it.
So I'm not particularly aware of any specific feedback that we've gotten yet from the ox suits from putting them on from putting them on earlier in the mission. But the experience gained from having a chance to put them on during the mission and not just before entry is invaluable to the crew. They will have, no one's put an ox suit on in zero gravity before. And so the lessons that they learned from doing it in a arguably less stressful time in the middle of the mission, it's going to pay dividends for when they have to put it on entry day, when there is a little bit of a time constraint, because we need to ensure that they're suited and seated before entry.
Miles.
Hi, Miles Doran, CBS News. One question for Rick and one for Debbie. Rick, how long before entry interface and roughly at what altitude, if you know it, are you switching back over to TDRS and getting GPS back? How quickly is that sequence of events happening? And Debbie, after Artemis I, the main parachutes and the forward bay cover weren't able to be recovered for inspection. Is there anything you wish you knew about how they performed that you don't know based on other data that you were able to get? Thanks.
So as far as the handover from the Deep Space Network to TDRS, that's going to occur approximately 38 minutes prior to entry interface. Once the handover is complete, you'll hear a comm check from Capcom to confirm we have a good link. And I just think this is a good time to acknowledge that the Deep Space Network has been performing exceptionally through the mission. It was a watch item as we were preparing for the mission over the past couple of months. But the team that has been managing those systems and ensuring good communications has really performed tremendously, and their efforts pre-flight have paid dividends.
Yeah, I'd say on the parachute question, the Artemis I was one data point, and so we really don't, it's a demonstration of how the parachutes perform, but our certification is really based on extensive ground tests where we are, chunking parachute assets out the back of a plane in Yuma and looking at all different kind of corners of the box when you have one chute out or two chutes out or one drogue and you miss a main. And so you're doing these tests on the ground to really prove out that system. So I'd say, not getting the asset back, that, you can always learn by visually inspecting it when it comes back, but that's not what we base our certification on. We are putting the parachutes for Artemis II on the, we would like to recover them and see if we get those back. But part of the reason of adding all the additional air assets that we spoke of earlier was to get some really good imagery of those chutes if we don't get them back.
Okay, we'll take one or two more and then we'll go ahead and wrap up. Go ahead.
Nick Notario with ABC 13. Question, Rick, for you. Give us the difficulty about what you're going to do relative to the launch, the lunar flyby. For people at home, how hard is this splashdown that you all are trying to accomplish? And what are the nerves like here at JSC to make sure that those astronauts return safely to Earth?
I don't know if it's necessarily harder. I think it's just a different environment. It's very dynamic. So similarly to the launch environment, there's not a lot of time to react. When we're performing the launch of any rocket, no matter who's in charge of the launch, there's not a lot of time to respond. And we've talked a little bit, and we showed the video of the engineering team and how the operations teams and engineering teams have been working well together. Unfortunately, when we're in a really time-critical dynamic environment, we don't have as much of an opportunity to exchange information and talk through nuances of failures. And so what's different for entry is more that there's more of a reliance on the operations teams as the experts to provide a recommendation and safely ensure that the astronauts return home.
You know, I'll just mention that Debbie mentioned a little earlier about the probabilistic risk assessment. We don't talk a lot comparatively about the risk of one part of the mission relative to another, but obviously, you know, launching the rocket in Ascent is a significant part of the risk that we've retired and is behind us. But obviously, we're down to the wire now. We're down to the end of the mission, and obviously, getting the crew back home and getting them landed safely is a significant part of the risk that's still in front of us. So.
Okay, we'll take one conclude.
Thanks for taking my question. I'm very sorry, it brings up the dreaded toilet again, but there was some conversation between the crew and control, I think it was yesterday, about the volume in the tank needing to keep on top of that ahead of re-entry. I was just wondering if you could give me some more information about what that concern might have been, or whether it even is a real concern. I take it from your previous answers, you're happy about the conditions for re-entry, but why could that be an issue? And if it is an issue, has it been resolved?
Yeah, I think the issue that if it's specific to reentry is with that tank, it's not, we've been talking for the last few days, it's not venting as effectively as we had hoped or had planned. And so that tank may have more volume in it on reentry day than our initial models had analyzed. And so we're just looking at, with a tank of that volume, are we okay? And we're perfectly fine. So just double checking loads and things like that. And CG of the spacecraft, you know, things are moved around and packed differently. So all that's part of that assessment we do right before reentry.
Okay, we'll go ahead and wrap up. I want to thank our participants for joining us today. We do have one time change coming up with the crew news conference scheduled for later this evening. That will occur approximately an hour later. Plan to start at 9:45 Central Time, 10:45 p.m. Eastern Time. You can stay tuned for all the latest updates, including imagery at nasa.gov, and thank you for joining us.
Thanks for joining us following our daily press conference. We are live here in the Artemis Mission Control Room, and I'm joined by Seth Lambert, developer of Arrow, the Artemis real-time orbit website that we have all loved keeping track of. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, my pleasure.
So can you tell us about how Arrow works? How do you get that telemetry from Orion and then turn it into something that we can all access?
Yeah, absolutely. So Orion's thousands of sensors are downlinking telemetry to mission control here, and the Flight Operations Directorate takes that data, pulls out a subset of it, and passes it along to me. Arrow ingests it as text and then goes through a parsing algorithm. Everything is looking good, and then applies the vehicle data like position, velocity, orientation to a 3D model of Orion. And then it takes the time data and passes that to the astronomy calculator. And that's how we get the position of the moon and sun relative to Earth, so that we have Orion in the context of the mission as a whole and accurate lighting.
An astronomy calculator. That is so interesting. Well, longtime fans of Artemis will remember that we also had Arrow for Artemis 1. So can you tell me what has changed since then?
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of the telemetry parameters have changed nominally. There's also new components to this flight. There was ICPS and the RPO maneuver, but there's also a lot of work that went into updating the graphics for Arrow this time around, as well as adding in the mobile lab.
Well, I remember when Arrow started as an intern project of yours, and your background is in game development. That's that right? How did you end up at NASA, and how do your game development skills contribute to this?
Yeah, absolutely. I started as an intern while I was getting my education in game development. I kind of just fell into it. I never anticipated that I'd end up at NASA. I started developing a educational kiosk app, and when the opportunity to make Arrow came up, I jumped on it. Turns out there's a lot of overlap in the mathematics.
The flywheel team. This is a great device. We really enjoyed it in this small cabin. It's perfect, and it gave us a lot of good opportunity to get our heart rate up and also get some great resistance exercise. So we just wanted to shout out a nice thank you. Here we go. Thank you, guys.
Thanks for the words and the cheers.
That was Commander Reed Wiseman calling down that they have finished exercise for the mission, and that's worth celebrating. So sorry to interrupt you, but please tell us more about your background and how that helped you build Arrow.
Yeah, there's a lot of overlap between the mathematics that go into 3D game development and tracking a spacecraft. Actually, they're two of the only industries that use the math concept called quaternions, which is an extension of the complex numbers into 4 dimensions to track rotations in space.
Wow, that's fascinating. And I love having you here because that's a different background than a lot of people realize that we need at NASA. So I really appreciate that. But the public has really enjoyed keeping up with Arrow. What has been your favorite part of the mission so far?
I think my favorite part has been seeing the reaction online to Arrow and seeing it be a spark that people latch onto, and it gets them curious and asking questions and engaging in discussion online with each other about this mission and about what they're seeing through Arrow. And it's been really wonderful to see so many people excited to learn, excited to follow the mission, and feel like they're a part of it through Arrow.
That's so cool. Well, we're showing Arrow right now here on the broadcast. And my last question is, besides the broadcast, where can people keep up with Arrow?
During the mission, Arrow is available online at www.nasa.gov/trackartemis and on the front page of the NASA mobile app.
Very cool. Well, Seth Lambert, developer of the Artemis Real-Time Orbit website, I'm so happy that we got to have you here. We have shown Arrow so many times during the mission, and it just makes perfect sense that we would get to talk to you today. So thank you again.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Houston integrity for the repress 1 note.
Go ahead.
Hey, we called down a couple days ago about our contingency LIO, either the LIO canisters or the bubble wrap expanding in the depress. Well, everything is back to the right size now, and it all fits back in its stowage area, so that's great news.
Copy. Bubble wrap nominal. Thank you.
That call from Commander Reed Wiseman down to the ground, keeping us updated on the cabin pressurization. During today's press conference, the crew aboard Orion was instructed to don their hearing protection for cabin repressurization. The cabin pressure at that time was 10.48, and we are now up to 12.73. Additionally, we are tracking a shift to our crew news conference tonight that is now targeted for 9:45 p.m. Central Time, 10:45 p.m. Eastern Time. This is Artemis Mission Control with a mission elapsed time of 6 days, 23 hours, and 40 minutes into the flight of Orion for the Artemis II mission. Currently, the spacecraft is 187,694 miles away from Earth. As you can see, that little crescent Earth is even bigger than we saw it this morning. We've recently heard the crew call down that they are complete with exercise, and that wraps up exercise for them for the entire mission. Tomorrow, they will be busy configuring the spacecraft and reviewing their entry procedures. During the briefing, we also heard the crew call down that all of 4 crew members had completed their orthostatic intolerance garment testing. All crew members took turns testing and evaluating that orthostatic intolerance garment that's worn under the Orion Crew Survival System suit, or OX suit, and that helps the astronauts maintain blood pressure and circulation during the transition back to Earth's gravity. That garment is used to apply lower body compression. With those activities complete, the crew members are starting to move into their midday meal period. So on the menu for lunch on flight day 8, we have beef stew, smoked turkey, cauliflower and cheese, tropical fruit salad, chocolate pudding cake, chicken noodle soup, roasted turkey, fish with mango salsa, braised red cabbage, pasta with shrimp, beef steak, potatoes, and the cosmic brownie. Coming up, Reed Wiseman and Christina Cook are also scheduled to conduct some National Geographic interviews. Through a competitive selection process, NASA selected National Geographic to help tell the story of Artemis II. The crew is equipped with multiple GoPros, both Max and Hero 11, and every day they are timelined to film from a shot list provided by National Geographic. That includes their morning routine, talking with their families, exercising, and other thoughts on the mission. In about an hour, we also expect to have a public affairs event with the Canadian Space Agency.
to Houston for Victor and the extra accelerometer task we discussed at morning DPC. Hey Victor, just for data correlation on the ground, when you do that 5-minute accelerometer test, please give us a call at the beginning and the end of that 5 minutes.
Will do, and if you want, I could put that in work now.
Victor, we'd love to take that now. Thank you.
Okay, Houston, the accelerometers are coming on in 3, 2, 1, hack. Accelerometers on, 5-minute timer started.
Copy, on for 5 minutes. Thank you.
Houston, shutting down the accelerometers in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, off.
Copy, accelerometers off. Thank you, sir. Integrity Houston for timeline look ahead.
Go ahead, Houston.
All right, one more timeline delta with the addition of the leak test for prop. The afternoon news conference, that's your PAO event currently at about MET 3 hours 10, is going to move about an hour to the right. So we'll come up AOS on Madrid. We'll spend about 30 minutes doing prop stuff with you, and then give you 30 minutes to set up the cameras and so forth and start the PAO event after that.
Okay, sounds great.
It's Capcom Stan Love in Artemis Mission Control here in Houston, speaking with the crew. Again, our public affairs event this evening will now begin at 10:45 p.m. Eastern Time, 9:45 p.m. Central Time.
Integrity Houston, no action on the enabled caution. That's part of our cabin repress. It should clear on its own soon.
Copy. Thanks, Dan.
NASA astronaut and capsule communicator Stan Love calling to the crew aboard the Orion spacecraft. They received a caution about their cabin pressure. However, it will clear out on its own after the oxygen levels out inside the cabin. We are currently repressurizing Orion. There was a demonstration flight test objective to have the cabin pressure at 10.2 psi. That repressurization has been going on for about an hour and a half now, and the pressure is currently at 13.27. We're currently at a mission elapsed time of 7 days and 6 minutes, meaning it has officially been a week since Orion launched to fly around the moon and come back home to Earth, targeting that splashdown in 2 days, 1 hour, 25 minutes in the Pacific Ocean. We do expect to see the crew and hear from them shortly during the Canadian Space Agency Public Affairs event. That'll be in about 40 minutes. This is Artemis Mission Control at Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas. You are looking at a live view of the Orion spacecraft and our home planet, Earth. Earth will continue to grow in the frame as we are targeting splashdown now in 2 days, 1 hour, and 16 minutes. The crew is currently enjoying their midday meal, and we expect to see and hear from them in about 30 minutes for the Canadian Space Agency Public Affairs event. This is Artemis Mission Control in Houston, and you are looking at a live view of the Orion spacecraft and a live view of Earth. Now today we were expecting to do a dock cam demo and a manual piloting demo, but early in the mission, the team observed a pressure increase in the oxygen manifold of the service module's propulsion system. They isolated a branch of that oxygen pressurization system, and when that was isolated, the oxygen tank pressure increase halted and those pressures steadied out. So since then, teams have been discussing that configuration, and that was flight day 2. They've developed a test plan to further understand the aux pressures when branch 1 is available for pressure control. They ran that test plan through simulations today, and the team is ready to execute that test this evening. Of course, we do have limited time remaining in the mission, and we want to execute this test while the crew is awake so they could back up any commands from mission control. Both the initially planned docking camera demo and manual piloting demo would change the spacecraft attitude and use that prop system. So in order to provide a steady environment for evaluating the test data, mission management approved canceling both of those demos this evening. Of course, we have gotten several checkouts with the docking camera already, as well as we did complete some manual piloting, both during the manual piloting demo earlier this week, as well as during the proximity operations demonstration after launch. Also, to provide time to get that test started, we moved the crew news conference by 1 hour, and it's now starting at 9:45 p.m. Central Time.
Integrity Houston, Jeremy, we see you on camera. And Jeremy, we see your mouth moving with the handheld mic, but are not receiving audio. And below that, we have you on Building 8 audio. Wilco.
A look inside the Orion spacecraft right now at Canadian Space Agency astronaut Jeremy Hansen. He will be conducting a Canadian Space Agency public affairs event coming up. This is Hansen's first flight to space. Meanwhile, his crewmates, Reed Wiseman, Victor Glover, and Christina Cook, are in their midday meal period. In the background of just behind Jeremy Hansen, you can see the RISE zero gravity indicator. RISE took over the NASA Artemis social media accounts today. So if you're looking for more content on him, you can check them out at NASA Artemis. Now in frame behind Jeremy Hansen is pilot of the Artemis II mission, NASA astronaut Victor Glover. Floating into frame for a moment there, Commander Reed Wiseman. Again, the
Houston integrity for images for downlink.
Go ahead, Reed.
ACN, I put a single photo in a folder entitled For Matthew Dominic to share with CB on PCD1. If you could get that picture to him, I'd appreciate it.
We will get that crucial piece of imagery to Matthew Dominic.
Okay, excellent. I was trying to reduce the size of it on Goldstone, and it kept corrupting. So hopefully that file itself is not corrupted. It's the NEF. Sorry, it's a little bit larger.
Roger, we'll take a look.
That was NASA astronaut and Artemis II commander Reed Wiseman calling down about something they are sending to their friend, fellow NASA astronaut Matt Dominic. Meanwhile, we are standing by for the start of the Canadian Space Agency Public Affairs event. We expect that to start in about 13 minutes. If you look closely, floating in the background are a pair of solar eclipse glasses. During the crew's lunar flyby on flight day 6, they were the first humans to witness a solar eclipse from the moon. Now, this solar eclipse was not visible from Earth. It was only visible to the crew when the moon passed in front of the sun. They were able to put on those eclipse glasses until the moment of totality, during which they were even able to see the corona of the sun around the moon. There are some incredible photos available from that portion of the lunar flyby during the time they were in the solar eclipse, as well as the rest of the flyby. Some beautiful photos of the moon. You can find those on images.nasa.gov or on NASA's social media. There's even a selfie of everyone in those eclipse glasses. This is Mission Control Houston, specifically the Artemis Flight Control Room here at Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas. A mission elapsed time of 7 days, 39 minutes. We are on flight day 8, and as earlier reported, we were anticipating the manual piloting demo, the second half of that, and the docking camera demo this evening. Those have been canceled. They are going to conduct a prop pressurization test. Our public affairs event is also being shifted. That will start at 10:45 p.m. Eastern Time, 9:45 p.m. Central. We are also just moments away from a Canadian Space Agency public affairs event. As you can see, astronaut Jeremy Hansen there, center of your screen, getting set up. That event will start in 5 minutes. So far today, the crew aboard this spacecraft did a test with their orthostatic intolerance garments. These are essentially a compression garment worn on the lower half of the body and can help reacclimate the astronauts ahead of their return to Earth. They also got in their last exercise before return. Tomorrow will be a very busy day with cabin configuration and studying their entry procedures.
Integrity, this is Houston. Are you ready for the event?
Houston, this is Integrity. We sure are.
Canadian Space Agency, this is Jenny from Mission Control Houston. Please call Integrity for a voice check.
Jenny, hello and thank you. Integrity, this is Josh Kutrick at the Canadian Space Agency in St. Hubert. How do you hear us? He hears us.
We got you loud and clear, Josh. Great to hear your voice. We got Jenny and Capcom, and it's great to have you on board Integrity. Thanks for joining.
Thank you, guys. We're good? Thank you, thank you, thank you. Jeremy, and to your crew aboard, we have a very special guest tonight who would like to say a few words to you. And so, c'est avec grand plaisir que je passe la parole au très honorable Mark Carney, Premier Ministre du Canada.
Merci beaucoup, Joshua. Et tout d'abord, Jeremy, je veux commencer en français parce que tous les Canadiens et Canadiennes sont tellement fiers de vous pour bien des raisons. Mais c'était incroyable de vous entendre parler français pour la première fois dans l'espace. And as I say, Canadians are so proud of what you're doing and the collaboration. And I just want to have a chance, if I may, I'm thrilled. I'm absolutely thrilled to be speaking with you, Jeremy, and the crew. We've all been watching and inspired by what you're doing. And I just want to, I'm conscious, I spoke to the president the other day. I think he may have mentioned just how proud we are to be associated with this mission. And, it strikes us in Canada, there's such an incredible team, from the engineers who designed Orion and the rockets to mission control, to Jenny and the team there, the four of you. And I wonder if you just, enlighten us a bit about some of the lessons that you've learned over the years and up there in terms of teamwork and collaboration. I mean, this is such a unique example for the world and beyond. And I heard last point, pilot Glover say, I think it was on Easter, he was looking back at what he called Spaceship Earth, and what lessons we can take here on how to work together better down on Earth.
Premièrement, c'est un honneur pour nous d'avoir le Premier ministre à bord le vaisseau Integrity. Alors, merci beaucoup pour ça. Et pour moi, c'est juste important de communiquer que je suis tellement fier du Canada. C'est le Canada qui a fait le travail de créer cette opportunité d'être ici dans l'espace lointain. Alors, Canada, je suis aussi fier de vous. Also, why don't I pass the word or the mic around a little bit? I think my colleagues would love to say a couple words, and they know a lot about collaboration. You can see we got our flags here together. We're better together, and I'll pass the mic.
Perfect.
Greetings, Prime Minister Carney. I just wanted to say thank you for the amazing hospitality, and we look forward to sharing all of the discoveries and pictures and experiences with the people of Canada when we get back. And I think I'll just say one word about teamwork is willingness. Willingness is a huge ingredient in a successful team.
I'll just add that I flew to the International Space Station in 2014, and before we go up there, we have to go to Montreal to the Canadian Space Agency and do training up there. And it was amazing. In just 1 week of my robotics training up there, I have lifelong friends from Canada, and I am honored to serve alongside Jeremy, Josh, and Jenny, truly the finest astronauts I have ever met.
I completely agree. I love my crewmates' words. I think we're so in agreement on this. And really, the answer to your question, in so many ways, we are an example, I hope, of that collaboration, about how when you go together, when you bring in partners and contributors that are all excited about the same mission but have different talents, how you can go so much farther. It may be more complicated, but I think what we've shown time and time again, both in the International Space Station and with this vehicle and this mission, is that the impacts are just so much greater and they're compounded.
Amazing, amazing. Well, can I pick up on just a couple of things you said? One is on hospitality, and it's great that you've been to Canada. I want to extend the invite on behalf of all Canadians to come to Canada. Certainly come to Ottawa. Don't look too closely right now. You'll notice that it's still pretty white, but it's the snow's going to go. And I just wonder, a lot of Canadians just want one point of reassurance that the preference is for maple syrup over Nutella on your pancakes in the morning. I'll take that as a yes. I hope.
Absolutely, sir. I can send Christina to get the syrup right away, but we definitely have it on board. It can make another guest appearance.
That's excellent. I'm going to ask two questions. I'm conscious of the time. And
she'll bring it over. While I have the mic for a second. All right, over to you.
I'm sorry, Jeremy. I'll squeeze in two questions. Well, by the way, we all trust you. You don't have to prove it. But I'm going to ask you a serious. Well, they're both serious questions. And the first one was, Jeremy, you said the other day that this mission is a risk for a good reason, which really struck me, and it struck me as well. You know, in the countdown when there were some tolerances and mission control had to decide that, you know, it was risk and it was good to go and everyone signed off. So you're taking risks for a good reason. And I just wonder, maybe expand on that a bit. You know, you've got lots of young people watching and inspired, and, you know, the challenge that there is, and it's a positive challenge for this generation. But the other question, which I'll squeeze in, is, you know, we have been following here that the wake-up songs that you've had, from Sleepyhead to Tokyo Drifting. My daughter's making a playlist, so she wants to get some feedback on your favorites, your favorite wake-up songs.
Well, I'll start with the wake-up song, and maybe I'll get it from the crew. But my family suggested the one this morning, Under Pressure, and so that's been my favorite so far. How about I go around? Then I'll wrap up this question.
My wife actually replaced one of my songs with a song, Mandisa, Good Morning, and it's just a very pleasant. It was actually really pleasant to wake up to, and so I give her a shout out, and that was my favorite one.
And I won't quite take responsibility for Pink Pony Club, although it probably is my responsibility. But Tokyo Drifting is a song that my daughters and I listen to every year when we go on our annual vacation to Florida. And so that one meant the most to me.
Yeah, the wake-up songs have been absolute perfection. However, they did cut off Pink Pony Club before the chorus, so I really was just singing it all day after that. My song was Sleepyhead because it was after a 4-hour nap after being awake for, I'm not sure how long, but many, 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 many hours, and I knew that we would need a little backup on that.
All right, and my second favorite song will be on Landing Day, but I'll let you wait to see what that one is. I think it's appropriate for the day. The one more thing you asked about risk, and we do think risk is necessary, but calculated risk, well thought out risk, and risk that you balance with others. And so for youth that are making those decisions, do it in collaboration with others. People will point out when you're out over your skis, and so you have to be smart about how you take risks. But as a country, we have to be willing to have some failures. And we fail in this space program, but we assure ourselves we're not going to stay or rest in those failures. We're going to push through them. And so as you've been leading our country industry, we know we have to do some things. We have some work to do. We have to be willing to have some failures and be okay with that, but ultimately knowing that we're just going to persist and win in the final calculation. Before you leave us, Prime Minister, I did want to show you this. We have this on board flying, and when we get back, we'd love to make sure this gets to you. So I wrote your name on the back, well, your title on the back, make sure that it gets to you. Over to you.
Thank you, Jeremy. If I may, thank you, Reed, Victor, Christina, Jenny. Extraordinary experience. And I'll just reinforce what you just said. Whether it's in Canada, the United States, right around the world, the examples that you're showing of how to reach literally for the stars, reach for the moon, and not just be satisfied with that, because you're setting a platform for the world to go even farther. And it's hugely inspiring in all walks of life. Canadians couldn't be more proud of you personally, but this mission and our collaboration with the United States. So thank you for making the time, and Godspeed, and enjoy the rest of the mission. And we look forward to seeing you here at some point in Canada for maple syrup on pancakes.
Thank you. Thank you.
We love it. We love it, sir. That's great.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Thank you, Jeremy. I would now like to invite the Honourable Melanie Joly, Minister responsible for the Canadian Space Agency. The stage is yours.
Yes, thank you, Josh.
Hello.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Jeremy. It's really a pleasure to see you and all the crew. Ça me fait vraiment plaisir de te voir. Écoute, on est extrêmement fiers, tout le monde ici, la grande famille de l'Agence spatiale canadienne. On te dit bonjour, puis on te dit à quel point on est fiers de toi. And what I wanted to tell you is how much I've heard time and time again, people from across the country saying, oh my God, we're so not only proud, but it's good. Is actually helping us go through our days, because sometimes things can be a bit heavy and there is sometimes anxiety, but all of you four have been really, really good news. And so I just wanted to convey that. And now I know we can talk about maple syrup, and yes, you guys, you're invited to come here. Bien entendu, on va vous amener à la cabane à sucre avec plaisir. Avec plaisir. Mais j'aimerais savoir, what, now that you're a bit, you know, you've gone the furthest away from Earth and therefore from humankind, I have a deep question. Do you have a new perspective on humankind as you're coming back, or not? Does that change your point of view on things, or not? It just, you know, I think it's a question that many of us ask each other. Donc voilà, c'est ma question. Après toi, Jérémy. Merci encore.
I think it's an excellent question, and you know, the answer for me. Messy. I think it's an excellent question, and for me personally, it hasn't changed my perspective at all. I've seen some amazing things. The viewpoints and the perspective. I've seen new perspectives, but my perspective on humanity and our place on planet Earth has not changed, because I launched with the perspective that I think there is enough for all. The purpose of humanity is joy and lifting one another up, creating together versus destroying. And that's how I launched. And I launched with the expectations. We often say in this crew, we don't want to set expectations, but I launched with the expectation that I would see the proof of it with my own eyes. And I definitely have. And I think that's really reassuring. And I'm glad, we're all glad. We've been just receiving some touching messages up here. Yours was very heartfelt. We felt it up here. And we're glad that we can remind people that we can do better as a human race by lifting one another up and collaborating. Alors, merci pour la question. C'est vraiment important pour nous à penser des choses comme ça.
That was the best.
Thank you, Minister.
Thank you, Josh. Thank you.
Very nice to see you.
Thank you. And I think there's lots of young people that want to ask questions.
We should do that. We should go right to questions. So moving right along, Jeremy, Artemis, don't go anywhere. We'll start with a question from the room. Ella.
Hi,
I am Elamim Macumber, and I'm from Gunawaga, and I attend to a Gunawaga Survival School. How does seeing Earth from space change your view on life?
Is from Raya, Mississauga, Ontario.
We want to know, is there anything that you learned from the elders of the Turtle Lodge that impacted your journey to space?
Oh, I love that question. Yeah, I've had many Indigenous elders spend time with me on my travels across the country, and I've always enjoyed it. If I can give you one piece of advice, sit with your elders and ask questions, but listen intently. Every time I've stopped to listen, I learn these amazing things. You've probably seen my mission patch. I have it with me here. I flew with it on my kneeboard, actually. Let me make sure I got it upside right. You've probably seen this. This encompasses a few of the things that I learned from the elders. But when I left the Vision Quest, I had a better understanding of it. And these animals in our patch, in this patch that was created by Anishinaabe artist Henry Guimont, from the Turtle Lodge, these animals represent some things that I try to think about every day. My mantra when I wake up is I am just going to try to spend my day walking with these attributes. And so I start with courage, humility, respect, love, honesty, wisdom, and truth. And my crewmates here, and one of the instructors that we went on a backpacking expedition with, taught us something about being in integrity. It's actually one of the reasons we named our spacecraft Integrity, is because as humans, you are not always in integrity. Sometimes you are in your integrity and sometimes you fall short, but you should strive to be in integrity. And so for me, being in integrity is walking in accordance with these 7 sacred laws. And it's just something that helps me guide me through life. Over to you.
Thank you, Jeremy. Our next question is here in the room. Oh, it's not, it's online. Our next question is from David Leader, Middle School, also from Mississauga, Ontario.
Our question to Jeremy is, with AI, robots, and climate change becoming big issues on Earth, how do you think missions like Artemis will change the way humans live on Earth in the next 20 to 30 years?
about comms being hard with spacecraft. Wait there. Is it it? Jeremy, if you hear this, I'm going to repeat the question. It was, with AI, robots, and climate change becoming big issues on Earth, how do you think missions like yours will change the way we live here in the next 20 or 30 years?
Hopefully you can still hear me, but humans are always pushing the boundaries, always inventing.
I'm going to repeat the question. It was, with AI, robots.
Yes, I heard the question the first time. Maybe my comm's not getting down. It's interesting to think about. Hopefully you're hearing this. Just interrupt me if you're not. We keep pushing the boundaries of innovation, and there's new technology, and that's great. We can leverage it for our advantages. We can also use it to do harm. And so we just have to strive to keep pushing innovation in ways that helps us collectively live better together. How do missions like Artemis help us? Well, one of the things I love about space exploration is we set really big goals, hard goals, like sending 4 humans out around the moon. And we have more goals. We're not stopping here. If you think this is neat, it's going to get really exciting in the next number of years. We plan to get back to the surface of the moon. We plan to create a permanent base there on the moon and eventually get to Mars. But what is awesome about when we set these big goals is it puts a focus point on actually getting it done. When you know, it's easy to dream about things and create innovations, but when you actually are going to bet your life on something and go out and do it, it really helps bring that innovation cycle all the way around, from original thought to scientific understanding to actually development and testing to actually doing. And doing is important. And we in the Artemis program are doing as an international collaboration and flexing one of the most important muscles we have, which is learning how to work better together. Over to you, Josh.
Thank you, Jeremy. That was well received down here. We're hearing that is about all the time that we have. And so a heartfelt welcome and thank you to Jeremy, Christina, Victor, and Reed, the Artemis II crew. Bon voyage. We wish you a safe journey home. We hope to see you all again very soon. Thank you, everyone.
Integrity. This is Houston ACR. Thank you. That concludes our event.
Merci tout le monde. Thank you to all participants. Integrity. We are now resuming operational audio communication.
Thank you, Josh. The crew says thank you.
Integrity.
We're live in Artemis Mission Control here in Houston, Texas at Johnson Space Center. You just watched Jeremy Hansen speaking with members of the Canadian Space Agency and Prime Minister, as well as Canadian Space Agency astronaut Joshua Kutrick.
Integrity, we're on board camera.
Go ahead, Jeremy.
just curious if you guys want to stay on board. I know we've got the other PAO event later. Maybe we could just stay on the D5. I don't know if that TS rate of 1300 is too much. I'm not sure if we can lower it, but either way, we're happy to have you on board with this camera, ideally, or we can switch over to the HHP.
We're checking. Jeremy, we'll stay with you on the D5 for another 14 minutes, then we have a day rate change and we'll have to drop it.
Okay, Stan. I'll turn the audio off and then bring it back on board.
Good plan, sir. And we loved your PAO event.
Thanks, Stan. Appreciate that.
You're looking at a live view inside the Orion spacecraft. That is NASA astronaut Christina Cook. The Orion spacecraft is now 99,427 miles away from the moon, 184,498 miles away from Earth. Obviously, you can keep up with that at any time at nasa.gov/track-Artemis. Inside the cabin, the crew members are finishing up their midday meal. And again, a reminder, our news conference with the crew members will happen at 10:45 p.m. Eastern Time tonight.
Integrity Houston for timeline, 2 items.
We're with you.
All right, first, since we are not doing the docking cam bearing objective anymore, you can wait on docking cam install until just before bedtime, so we don't need it early anymore. Next, the flight director conference coming up here in a minute or two is going to be on Open Around Earth to discuss the valve leak characterization.
And one clarifying question with the docking cam, it sounded like you were just giving us that full length, but if we did want to take it down sooner, that's also okay.
And Christina, sorry, bad words. All we really mean is plug it in. Integrity Houston, Orion to Earth 1 for conference.
Hey, we're with you, Jeff. Go ahead.
Okay. Hey, guys, we're going to talk through the steps that we're going to do in the prop characterization. The overall big picture, what we're trying to do is really understand whether we have a leak on aux branch 1, and if we do, exactly what that leak rate is. So the first thing we're going to do is get all of our caution warning and our fitter back in the right configuration to be able to do a flush on that aux branch. We're going to do that from the ground, and you guys will be able to see that on the prop ohms plus X display. And so after we do that, we're going to be left into configuration with the latch valve open. And of course, there's 2 solenoid valves, which are not on your display. They're still closed. And those are the ones that we're going to see if there's leakage across. So we're checking for leakage from the helium tank into that aux tank that's downstream. And that's what we're trying to see.
Makes sense.
Okay, a couple of criteria that we have for stopping this test. If we see the fitter kick off, actually detect the leak again, of course it'll close the latch valve, and that will terminate this test with no action from either you guys or us. The other things we're looking for are if we get a pressure in the aux tank upwards of 274 psia, then we're going to command the latch valve closed. I don't expect that the ground or the crew would need to do this. We do expect the fitter to take action first, but we want to make sure that if for some reason we have a leak that's bigger than we expect, that we close that latch valve before we get to the 274 psi in the tank. Let's see, integrity, we've got 30 seconds to a data rate change, and then we'll see you on the other side.
We copy all that. Let me just read a little bit back to you. Fitter should be able to just shut us down. We are going to keep the SMRCS prop.SM RCS up. We just like that page a little more for the phase of flight we're in. If you want us to go back to OMC plus X, we can. And the valve in particular we're talking about is the aux helium isolation valve, top stop 3 on that page. That's the only insight we have because we don't have the PCA. That's string 1. And anytime we see it get above 270.
We are in a brief handover with the crew, and we'll regain that communications shortly. Flight Director Jeff Radigan calling up some of the instructions and things they want the crew to monitor during tonight's prop pressurization test. Here in Artemis Mission Control, the Orbit 1 team is on console, but the Orbit 2 team is filtering in the room and getting through their handover procedures.
And the fitter has not worked, and ground commanding has not worked, or we're LOS, we will command tab stop 3 to close. PSIA, and the fitter has not worked, and ground commanding has not worked, or we're LOS, we will command tab stop 3 to close. sound check.
Integrity Houston, back with you after the data rate change handover.
We got you, Jeff. Did you hear our response or not?
Let's see, we copied you talking about what we would take action on, the helium isolation valve, tab stop number 3, and closing that, and you gave us a summary that we expect the fitter to actuate first, and if it doesn't, then either the ground or you guys will take action. Ideally, we would command from the ground first, but of course, if we're LOS unexpectedly, then you guys will take action to close that valve to isolate aux branch 1.
Yep, that all sounds absolutely perfect. We will leave you all as prime for this, prime for commanding, prime for the test. We'll just monitor as you all go. And then if we're LOS and I try to